in the quiet heart of Willow Pond Lake, where reeds whispered secrets to the wind and the water glimmered gold at sunrise, lived Mama Della, a kind and devoted mother duck. She had prepared a nest of soft moss and feathers, eagerly waiting for the day her eggs would hatch. One warm morning, her eggs began to crack, tap, tap, tap. Out popped 5 yellow ducklings, fluffy and bright as sunshine. But there was one egg left, large and oddly speckled. Della tilted her head, confused. She didn't remember laying that one, but she tucked it beneath her wing with all the love in her heart. A few days later, a loud crack split the air. Out came a creature unlike anything Della had ever seen. He had large, sharp talons, a hooked beak, and dark, fiery eyes that shone with an inner light. The other ducklings gasped in surprise. "Mama, what is that?" one whispered. "He's so ugly," said another. "Why does he look so weird?" But Della simply nuzzled the strange chick gently. "He is your brother," she declared, her voice firm and warm, "and we will love him all the same." And so the little eagle, though no one knew he was an eagle, was named Echo. From the very start, life wasn't easy for Echo. He was bigger than his siblings, and his walk was more of a clumsy waddle. His wings stretched far wider than anyone else's, and when he tried to quack like the others, a strange high-pitched screech came out instead. The other duck families on the lake would whisper as he passed. "That duckling looks dangerous," they'd mutter. "He's not one of us. Keep your children away." Even Della's own ducklings sometimes joined in the mockery. "Your wings are too big," they'd tease. "You sound so scary." One would cry, "You'll never be able to swim like a real duck." Echo tried his very best to fit in. He practiced paddling for hours splash, but he was always slower than the rest. He tried quacking over and over, but his voice always cracked into that strange squawk. He tried to make himself smaller, keeping his wings tucked in tightly so no one would stare. But every night, when the lake grew quiet, he would climb to the top of a small hill and watch the sky. He saw birds soaring high above, their wings catching the wind, free and powerful. Something deep inside his chest ached with a longing he couldn't name. "I wish I knew where I belong," he'd whisper to the stars, feeling utterly alone. One afternoon, a fierce storm swept across Willow Pond Lake. The wind howled like a wolf, and massive waves crashed against the shore. The ducklings screamed and dove for cover, scattering in panic. But Echo didn't run. Without a second thought, he spread his massive wings, creating a shield. The branch struck him hard, and he fell to the mud, bruised and winded, but his siblings were safe. You'd think they'd be grateful, but instead, a nearby duck shouted, "He's too big. He's attracting danger to us." Another quickly added, "Maybe we should send him away before he brings more trouble." Echo lowered his head, the cruel words hurting him more than the wound on his back. Mama Della, however, stood firm in front of him, her eyes blazing. "No one touches my son," she quacked fiercely. "He stays." But even her love couldn't stop the whispers and the fearful stares. Feeling more isolated than ever, Echo began to wander off on his own, finding solace in the quiet corners of the lake. He didn't know it then, but this time alone was preparing him for a destiny far greater than he could imagine. Deep in the shadows of the North Woods lived a raven named Crag. He was feared by every creature near the lake. His wings were as black as night, and his eyes burned with a constant hunger. He was a notorious predator, preying on weak nests, small birds, and any unguarded eggs he could find. The ducks of Willow Pond had always managed to avoid him, until one fateful morning. Mama Della led her ducklings to the far edge of the lake for a special treat. They were all excited, pecking at juicy beetles and splashing happily in the shallows. Echo, as usual, stayed nearby, quietly stacking pebbles, trying not to bother anyone. Suddenly, a horrifying shriek tore through the sky. A dark shadow swooped low over the water. It was Crag. He attacked without warning, snatching one of the ducklings' Pip, the smallest one, by his tail feathers. Mama Della screamed in terror. The ducklings froze, paralyzed with fear, but Echo moved like lightning. He launched himself off the ground, his wings beating with a force he never knew he possessed. For the first time in his life, he wasn't trying to paddle or waddle. He was flying. Up, 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 he soared, the wind roaring around him. His wings cut through the air, as if they were born for it. He caught up to Crag in seconds. "Let him go," Echo screeched, his voice booming with unexpected power. The raven twisted in surprise. "You dare challenge me, you freak," he hissed. But Echo didn't hesitate. He slammed into Crag midair, the impact echoing across the entire lake. Startled, Crag released Pip. Echo dived, catching the terrified duckling safely on his back and landing gently beside a stunned Mama Della. Furious, Crag circled back, ready to strike again. But when he saw Echo, truly saw him for the first time, his massive wingspan, his sharp talons, and his fierce blazing eagle eyes, he paused. You're no duck," Crag hissed, a new fear in his voice. "You're a monster." Echo spread his wings to their full, glorious width, towering and mighty. "No," he said, his voice clear and strong. "I am their family." Defeated and humiliated, Crag retreated into the woods and was never seen near the lake again. An astonished silence fell over the water. The ducklings stared at Echo with wide-eyed awe. Pip nuzzled against him. "You saved me," he chirped. Mama Della's eyes softened with tears of pride. "I always knew you were special, my love." The other ducks, who had once shunned him, approached slowly, their voices trembling with remorse. We misjudged you," one said. "We're so sorry," another added. "Thank you for protecting us." Echo looked at them, not with anger or resentment, but with a deep, quiet understanding. All his life, he had desperately tried to be a duck, But when true danger came, he had become what he truly was, an eagle with the heart of a protector. Later that day, an old wise heron approached Della and gently explained the truth about Echo. He was an eagle, likely from a nest high in the mountains, his egg having tumbled down and miraculously found its way to hers. Della's heart clenched for a moment, knowing his world was so different from hers, but then she smiled. "No matter where he came from," she said softly, "he is my son." From that day on, everything changed. Echo was no longer the strange one, the outsider, the ugly duck. He was Echo, the guardian. He spent his days soaring high above the lake, a majestic sentinel watching over his family. He chased away foxes, hawks, and any lurking shadows that dared to come too close. The ducklings followed him with adoration, proudly calling him their big brother. As he grew older, Echo became a legend throughout the region. Not because he was an eagle living among ducks, but because he chose love over bitterness, strength over fear, and family over blood. Mama Della would often look up at the powerful figure circling in the sky and whisper to herself, "My beautiful boy, my miracle." And Echo, hearing her from high above, would let out a joyful screecher sound that was not a quack, nor just an eagle's call, but the sound of the hero he was always meant to be. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and subscribe for more tales that inspire. We'll see you in the next video.